discretion is advised.
Which movie is genuinely traumatic? Lorenzo's Oil is a hard film to watch because it's about a child who's dying of an incurable genetic disorder. It sticks pretty closely to the medical facts of the case it's based on, and it unfolds from the parents' point of view. Harrowing stuff even though the story isn't totally bleak, and it was nominated for awards. Fun fact. Not really fun. That disease runs in my mother's side of the family. I had 2 cousins die from it in their 20s. One of them took Lorenzo's Oil. It extended his life a few years, but ultimately he lost that battle. Also, I was an extra in that movie. When the Wind Blows from 1986. For anyone who doesn't know it, here's a short summary from Wiki. The film accounts a rural English couple's attempt to survive a nearby nuclear attack and maintain a sense of normality in the subsequent fallout and nuclear winter. Just thinking about this movie gives me chills, and not in a good way. Probably one of, if not the most disturbing movies I've ever watched. I felt sick for days. I'm convinced that the all-glass shower trend is from a generation of home builders who saw the shower scene in Psycho as kids. Growing up, my mother was traumatized of that movie to the point she had trouble taking showers and would only take a bath. One day while home alone, she had to shower to rush over somewhere. While in the shower, a large picture frame fell and hit the light switch on the way down, crashing to the floor. She said she screamed for a few minutes, sat there panicking, then got up and looked and realized what had happened. To my knowledge, she has not taken a shower since, and probably never will. Don't know the name of it, but there's a short foreign film where some boys were playing out in the middle of nowhere, and one of them gets stuck in some deep mud quicksand. He goes into it for some reason I forget, and of course gets stuck, which they laugh about. He tries wiggling himself out, but keeps sinking further. The friend goes for help, but cannot find anyone, and begins getting frantic. They cut back to show the stuck boys now sunk up to his neck. Cutscene back and forth from each boy, one looking for help, and the other stuck. Each time showing the boy sinking deeper, and becoming more terrified. The friend finally waves down a passing car and takes her back to the spot his friend was. But there is nothing but the big mud hole. She drives him back home, and he is silent, staring out the window the whole way. End film. Edit. My memory is skewed as it's been a while since I've seen it, so I told it a bit wrong, but the premise is there. Boys playing a dangerous game and nature has the last laugh. It's a Sundance Film Festival short film called Forth. Opening of Saving Private Ryan. My grandparents had to leave the theater and my grandfather had World War II flashbacks for a month. He wasn't even on the beach that day. He was in the Pacific Ocean part of the war. Threads. Wanna know what a nuclear war would look like for the average citizen? This is the most terrifying movie I have ever seen. It refuses to turn away from the parts of nuclear war that every other movie glosses over. Absolutely, compellingly awful to contemplate. I was traumatized by the ending of The Mist. I had previously read the short story in one of the Stephen King anthologies, I forget which one, so I was not prepared for the ending they went for in the movie. Spoiler, it's not the same. Fire in the Sky. With the exception of the first and last 10 minutes, it's incredibly boring and mundane. Basically a drama about a murder investigation in rural northern Az. Then it ends as a proper sci-fi horror with a dude strapped to an exam table on an alien craft, being aggressively examined by some ugly ass humanoid aliens, while his screams are muffled by some kind of giant full body alien condom. My 9-year-old ass didn't sleep well 4 years after seeing that. Come and see. Literally no other movie compares to the trauma one feels upon finishing a viewing of it. Saw this recently. I was in tears bawling by the end of the barn scene. That movie does such a great job of combining fear, hopelessness, surrealism, historical accuracy and all too real horror. It traumatized me for a few days after seeing it. Also the part when they're leaving the village and he doesn't look back, which if he did he'd see the massive pile of civilian corpses stacked on the edge of town, including his mother sisters. Terrifying, bleak and gut-wrenching all around. Interesting bit of trivia: in the Soviet Union, they had some very different rules on filmmaking. Apparently, take the scene where he is hiding behind a dying cow as the Nazis rake the field with machine gun fire. Those were real MG-42 feats shooting real bullets over his head. And that dying cow was actually shot and dying in front of him. If anything, this movie was probably most traumatic to the poor child playing the main role. A monster calls. A little boy manifesting his fear of losing his dying mum in the form of a psychologist oak tree. Yes, you read that right. Honestly broke me watching that film. I've never been able to watch it since. Edit. Just to please all the pedantic people out there. It's not an oak tree. It's a yew tree. The Deer Hunter. My parents decided it was okay for 8-year-old me to watch it. I had nightmares about people forcing my parents to play Russian roulette for weeks after. The Green Mile. The dry sponge scene. That'll never stop haunting me. Also Hotel Rwanda. Watched it in college and nearly threw up at some points, and everyone was crying over that movie. Girls, guys, the teacher. We were a mess. I watched Event Horizon as a 15-year-old who had been left alone for the weekend for the first time at about 11 PM on a Saturday night. That was over 20 years ago, and I'm still not really over it. The best part is they cut a lot that they filmed to get it past the censors, especially the hell footage. Due to this movie coming out shortly before the DVD special features and extended editions craze began, and given the film's initial lack of commercial success, the studio didn't care about preservation of the footage, failed to store it properly, and ruined the chance we'll ever see it. Sadly, much of what happened in hell will remain in hell. Pan's Labyrinth. Not necessarily the fantasy part of it, but the main antagonist Fidiel and the ending. Just horrific. I cry every time. Also, for context, the scene with the pale man even scared Stephen freaking King, the reigning king of literary horror. It's a fantastic and beautiful film, but it's not for the faint of heart. Notable scenes: wine bottle. More scenes with blood and pain than you should shake a butcher knife at. The face cut as in a cheek sliced open, and you can see the blood and flesh vividly. DIY face stitches for the face cut. The pale man. The ending. Vidiel's weird obsession with having a son. And Vidiel just being the devil incarnate for the entirety of the film. Prisoners with Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman. Absolute mind duck. Don't look at your phone or not pay attention for even a few minimums, cause you'll lose track and just be lost the rest of the movie. A friend taunted me with The Exorcist when I was 12. I was so terrified. What she didn't know was, when I was 7, I had misbehaved at a fundamentalist Bible camp and was told I was possessed. That became a full-fledged phobia that led to other disorders, and I needed tons of therapy. So yeah, that movie. Antichrist. I was genuinely disturbed and couldn't sleep despite how tired I was. There were moments I flat out refused to watch, terrifying moments. I'm a huge fan of horror movies, but I'll never rewatch that one. As a kid, The Ring. I told my friends scary movies didn't affect me, but I couldn't sleep properly for weeks. As an adult, Midsommar. I did not consent to seeing half that shit. Ended up fighting with my partner after the movie was over because I was just so on edge. Midsommar let me discover that my level of desired engagement with movies like Midsommar is to read spoilers for them. I don't really want to see it. I enjoyed reading about it. I know what happens in it, and it sounds fascinating and well made, but I don't really want to see it. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That movie is amazing, but I have not been able to watch it again. It may not be traumatic to most, but to someone who has been through that, who wanted to be able to just forget someone, it killed me. The Girl Next Door is another one, but for a different reason. Here is the plot from Rotten Tomatoes, because I refused to think about the movie in too much depth. In a quiet suburban town in the summer of 1958, two recently orphaned sisters, Meg and disabled Susan, are placed in the care of their mentally unstable Aunt Ruth. But Ruth's depraved sense of discipline will soon lead to unspeakable acts of abuse and torture that involve her young sons. Willie, Ralphie, and Donnie the neighborhood children. And one 12-year-old boy, David, whose life will be changed forever. The stuff done to the oldest sister has left me traumatized. Melancholia. I didn't realize how depressed I was until I found myself identifying with the main character. Also, the end of the world vibe is intensely personal and not a big picture perspective of it. No toppling skyscrapers. Just a broken family in the countryside. It follows. Not because it was scary or sad. I just hate the thought that a being will always be following me every second in my life. And even if I move to another country, I have to live with the knowledge that it's on its way however long it may take. And that it could literally be anyone that walks in front or behind you. Gives me extreme anxiety just thinking about it. Dancer in the Dark. In a way it's a great film and I'll listen to the soundtrack a lot, but on the other hand I hate it, and I never want to watch it again. The only film I ever had to pause to have a panic attack during the scene. After watching Jaws 1, 2 and 3, never watched 4 as a kid, I can say with full confidence. Jaws. Had a panic attack trying to take a bath later that day. Pay It Forward. Well, was for me traumatic, watched with my dad, and he wept at the end. He was dying of cancer. 59, semi-retired as a PhD consultant doing work he loved. Trying to do the best he could in life to help the world that had treated him well. Mentoring colleagues. Flying the family down from all points to his modest tobacco Bahamian house. The story so strongly reflected on him. I can barely write this. We need to talk about Kevin. I watched the movie while pregnant with twins, and oh man, I was genuinely hoping that my children wouldn't turn out that way. Thankfully, so far, they haven't. I also related so much to the mom who found love and gave up her dream career to be a SAHM. Shortly before I watched the movie, I did the same. Also a highly recommended movie to watch if you have ever thought about having children. This is an old movie from a long time ago called Where the Red Fern Grows. You have to go watch the movie. I'm not going to ruin it by the memory I have, as it was probably at least 45 years ago, but about that time I just lost my first best friend. My sidekick. My shadow. When I was about 13 years old. My mother then asked me where I would like to bury him, doggo. And I had just seen this movie. So I asked her to bury him under the mulberry bush. So every spring when the mulberry bush would blossom, I would be reminded of him, as he was a blue Merrill Australian Shepherd. Click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.